The UPMC sports medicine experts in Central PA are here to help keep you in the game and improve your quality of life, no matter your age or activity level. Visit upmc.com/Central PA SportsMed to learn more.
Alrighty, welcome to another edition of PA High School Football Report podcast. Penn Live is your source for all things high school football news and much, much more. We're throwing together a little bit of a hodgepodge, little this and that for this edition. Talking football, of course. Colleague Dan Sostek. Dan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It just feels like the season's almost over, but we keep saying that, and it's still have games to go to and stuff to cover. So.
Yeah, it's that time of year. Everybody's in state playoffs now, so it's that final 2-week sprint to the finish. Then, of course, we got All-Stars, and maybe we get a few days off before we ramp up again here and start really doubling down on football coverage once we hit the end of June, early July. So that is right around the corner. We will certainly get to that. All right, Dan, let's start with a bit of news, a news bulletin here. Obviously, since we broke the story about Jordan Hill resigning from Trinity as head football coach. Obviously, it's become official now. Penn State, everybody can talk about it now because Penn State sent out the press release. Former PSU and NFL DT Jordan Hill, now officially the program's director of life skills. We weren't quite sure what the title was going to be, but that is it, director of life skills. So what is that? What kind of emotions does that bring up for you, Dan?
Well, I think life skills, to me, from afar, it kind of just signals that he's going to be kind of a utility man, so to speak, on the staff. They're just going to, I think he's going to. It seems like something where you'd be hands-on with both the players on the team and the players you want to be on the team. And I think that's a good role for him. I think Jordan's obviously a people person. He knows a lot of people in a lot of different areas at every level of the sport now. I mean, he's pretty much been a impact person at 3 different levels of football. And I imagine he's going to be a really nice liaison for James Franklin into the center of the state, especially when, as we're going to talk about later in the program, this specific area of the state is going to be at the center of recruitment across, a lot of big recruitments in the next few years. So I think it's a good spot for him. Happy for Jordan. I mean, we always would like to keep a guy with that sort of profile in our coverage area, right? Because just selfishly, it's cool to have a guy who played at that level, coaching a local football team, and we know what he meant to that area. But I'm sure Jordan has aspirations to one day, I'm not going to speak for him, but I imagine if he's been a head coach at the high school level, he has aspirations of one day, getting into that defensive line coach in college, some sort of role like that, and trying to work his way up. So if that's the end goal for him, this is a heck of a start on a college football team that I know prognostications might vary, but they at least have a shot to be playing in that first ever playoff. So congrats to Jordan. He's always, like we've said it multiple times when we talk about this, always been really good to us. His players loved him, and I'm sure he will be back in town. I don't even know if he'll move immediately. He might just commute, but he'll still be a part of this Central PA football community, I imagine. And I have a feeling we'll be seeing him at some football games this fall. So.
Yeah, I mean, you want to see his face, particularly even if you're a recruit, or better yet, if you're the recruit's parents.
Yeah,
because Jordan has this sort of calming effect, and his personality is just built toward speaking with people and making people understand situations and this and that. But obviously, his team, his team members looked up to him as well as they should. But yeah, it's interesting because you mentioned, Dan, we were talking before the show about Pitt, this being part of the program at Pitt, and you had a little bit of background on that.
Yeah.
And I remember a few years ago when JoJo Heaton, who was the cornerback at Bishop McDevitt, went on to a really successful career at Old Dominion, and now is at Virginia Tech. And he started as I believe it was like director or player engagement. That's what they called it down there. And it was basically too, he was hosting the recruits and, answering questions and sort of guiding the parents along during visits and things like that. So obviously he was instrumental in the recruiting game as a player engagement. And then he got promoted to player personnel. So now it's almost like he's in the system, in the coaching ranks. And obviously I know he has aspirations to be a coach in college. And he is another guy who has that personality and just sort of, if you're a head coach of a program and you talk to JoJo Heaton, you get it. Like, you understand this kid is going to rise through the ranks and get to where he's going to be. Jordan has that very same personality, just obviously a little bit older, and enjoys that part of it. So yeah, this reminds me of JoJo Heaton.
Yeah, the position I was thinking of was when I was at Pitt. Penny Samaya, who used to play for the Panthers in the 90s. He was the director of, I think at one point it was called the athletic director of student life, and then they changed it to the life skills program. And he would do things from both the athletic department. I remember he spoke to us our freshman orientation, telling us about like responsible drinking and things like that. So
right.
I think it ranges from, making sure kids are in line and to making sure kids are having a good time, making sure kids are happy. And a lot of personality management, which I imagine Jordan will be really good at. But yeah. I'm sure, like I said, it's also probably something where it gets him in the building and he can kind of help out in any way he can. Because I think that's the type of guy Jordan is, that he's not just going to pigeonhole himself to what his title says, right? He's going to try to work and help the program.
Yeah, and I think that life skills covers a lot of ground.
Yeah,
makes you be very versatile in what you can do. So anyway, congratulations to Jordan. Obviously, best of luck to JoJo down there at Vatech in his new role as well. So lots going on. Before we get into the pure end of our football podcast, we have a lot going on right now. We talked about in the beginning of the show, state playoffs for everyone, every sport in spring, with the exception of track, which was completed last weekend, 2 weekends ago.
I can't even keep track.
I think it was 2 weekends ago.
Yeah.
Down at Shippensburg University. We had a chance to cover that as well. But anyway, you have lacrosse, you have boys and girls lacrosse going on, you've got baseball going on, you've got softball going on. Is there anything else? Volleyball.
Yeah,
volleyball going on too. Boys volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, a lot happened. And so we just want to give a quick shout out to guys on the baseball, because I'm obviously on the baseball beat. Football guys playing baseball, they're still alive. Who do we have, Dan? We got 4 teams left, right? Yes. Well, let's call it 6, because we had 6 make the state playoffs from the Mid-Penn Conference. So you give a shout out, Dan, to the footballers playing hardball.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's hard to look past the one school where I think everyone just plays every sport, it feels like, and that's the Camp Hill Lions. You just I swear to God, Kobe Moore is lettered in 15 sports this fall.
I think when he's done in a couple weeks with his athletic career, don't quote me on this, but I think he'll have 32 varsity letters.
Yeah, like you just see him. You're gonna see him umpiring a softball game or something.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, you on that Camp Hill baseball team, you got Kobe, who's kind of the jack of all trades of that team. But I mean, the big one of the big names. You also have Noah Doy, who's just another Kobe Moore type that you just see him everywhere. But then I think the big name, who I believe has had a pretty darn good year on the diamond as well, is Drew Brandstetter.
Yes.
Who we've talked about it. We haven't talked about as much since the season ended, but that's a kid that I think we're all really high on as a football player, and he's had a great baseball year, but he's doing it while he's working out down in I don't know if he's going down to Berks County or what, but he's working out with Chad Henne, former NFL quarterback, Wilson Star. He's working out with Chad Henne, and if Drew takes another step forward, because he was already great last year, if he takes another step forward, I forget what his college situation is looking like, because he probably could. I imagine he's going to get baseball opportunities too, but he's in line for a really big year this year. So it's good. I always liked that though, when you're like seeing a kid who's clearly working at taking that next step in football, but he's not even considering stepping away from the diamond, and he's having a big year for a Camp Hill team that wants to get back to that state championship game.
Yeah, we got a couple more too from Camp Hill. We looked at, we may miss one or two here, but Austin Shore, obviously football guy, Luke Becker, football guy for Camp Hill too. So Camp Hill is playing against Thursday, and I think they're relatively close. I think they're in Fredericksburg, quarterfinal game against Newman Goretti, an old opponent, an old foe for Camp Hill there, in the state quarterfinals in 3A. We got obviously Aaron Angelo from East Pennsboro. East Pennsboro just keeps winning. I think it's like, I want to say it's 13 in a row, maybe 14 in a row. They just keep plugging along. Their prize for winning their opening round game against Thomas Jefferson out of Pittsburgh is another trip out west. They have to go to Mount Aloysius College on Thursday to play in the state quarterfinals in 4A. So they've been there before as well, out in that neck of the woods in Crescent. So Angelo's another guy too that we thought about, and Shippensburg obviously gets a game at Hershey High. Beautiful Memorial Field at Hershey on Thursday. Shippensburg plays District 4 champ Selinsgrove in the 5A quarterfinals. Troy Chamberlain, obviously, who fired a one-hitter in the opening round. He's a Millersville baseball guy, commit. Caden Shope, we got Elijah Bailey, Everson Weller, and probably another guy or two we're missing. We're trying to remember these guys off the top of our heads, and when you're old like me, that's not easy.
Yeah, and then also on the volleyball side, Lower Dolphin's still alive, and I don't know how much. I don't think I'm not positive he's a starter or not, but Carter Burden is on the roster from the Falcons football team, as is Isaac Landis. So a couple more guys, and then I believe State College was eliminated last night in boys lacrosse, but Ty Salazar is another one of those kids that you just see on every team for State College, and I think he's a junior, right? He's got another year left.
I believe so. Yeah. He was in the 7-on-7. I was at 2 weeks.
He's a really good player too. I know. I just saw he got a preferred walk-on offer from Penn State. So he's a real solid player. So that's another kid. Just always cool to see, because I know we've talked about it a lot, but I get when players specialize in one sport, especially when it's football, where an injury can kind of torpedo your whole season. But I just still really like seeing kids being out there for, you're a high school kid. You don't need to be picking one sport yet. You can be playing other sports and other
exactly. Yeah.
It's always cool to see that stuff, to see them thriving on multiple fields. So
yeah, absolutely. And again, state playoffs continue. We will be done by next week. State baseball championships and softball, obviously, up at Penn State. 13th and 14th, then, is that correct? June?
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
Yeah, Thursday and Friday, whatever next Thursday and Friday are.
Yeah, I believe it.
We'll finish up the season there. So lots to go yet. We got 4 mid-ped teams left in baseball. How many in softball, then?
I believe we've got 3. We've got Mechanicsburg. Shout out to Mechanicsburg, first ever state playoff win in program history, which is kind of surprising me, just given that
that is surprising. Yes,
but Gail does a great job. Gail Highstand does a great job over there. Shippensburg, 14 seed in the District 3 tournament, is in the state quarterfinals, so that's a pretty cool story. And then
nice.
Central Dauphin going for their second state title, first since 2019. So plenty of action.
Has Gail trained the dog yet to go get the bat?
I've seen the dog a lot less this year than years past. I wonder if that's the secret. I wonder if the dog was too distracting, and now they're locked in without it. But
maybe
I've seen it a couple times. It's an adorable dog. So
it is.
The UPMC sports medicine experts in Central PA are here to help keep you in the game and improve your quality of life, no matter your age or activity level. Visit upmc.com/Central PA SportsMed to learn more.
That's not the only news past week or so. I know mileage varies for people and how much they care about this type of stuff, but it is still it's something people like to talk about, and I figured it's worth talking about. Rivals released their latest Rivals 250 for the class of 2026, and as we've talked about on this podcast a lot, there is going to be a lot of mid-pen players on this list, and I believe going into this there were 4. One dropped out. Deontay Sheffy, I believe, dropped out of the rankings. He was right on the border. And then there are 3. So there are 3 more left. The highest ranked is still Kevin Brown from Harrisburg. Kevin Brown ranking number 35. He fell 6 spots. Tyler Merrill, though, from Carmel Valley, took a big leap. He went from number 120 to 91. And then Messiah Mickens, he fell a couple spots and is down to, hold on, I just had it, 116. So those are the 3. And again, I always think that these are more just for fans and for the kids and for I don't doubt, and this is not me diminishing the work Rivals does. I know they do a ton of work. They're out at every event, everywhere, at any of these scouting sites. But I think we've seen enough football to know that these aren't the end-all be-all, especially when they're 2 years ahead of time and things can change like that. I think because I think on ESPN, Tyler Merrill's ranked ahead of Kevin Brown.
Right.
And so those 3, I don't think anyone argues that those 3 deserve it. The real question for me is I think there are 2 more kids, 3 if you're talking Sheffy, but 2 other kids that haven't really got consideration from Rivals that we've seen play a lot. And I mean, there's one that I think is pretty. I just don't know what we're seeing differently than some of these scouting sites, but that's Elias Koch from Harrisburg. I can't imagine there are 250 better prospects in the class of 2026 than that kid. And then Maurice Barnes, who I think we've all said, he's still developing. I think he's much farther along as a linebacker. He hasn't had as much of a chance. He's been splitting carries as a running back. But with his offer sheet, sometimes with the schools that are interested in him, you'd also think there probably aren't 250 better players than him. But Elias is the one that really stuns me, that he's especially because ESPN's ranked him. I think On3 has ranked him as well. And I think that just leads me to kind of my overarching point about this is that like Elias Koch has offers from some of the best programs in the country, from Michigan, from Penn State, Pitt, all those teams. These teams, I think, are caring less and less about where the recruiting sites rank them and more about how they see the fit, especially given this portal world where, if they're going to bring in a guy, they kind of have to be sure that they're going to contribute immediately, right? Or they're just going to leave. So I just think Elias he's on the caliber of these players, and I think that's more important than what number it says next to your name.
Well, what's interesting to me, and I asked you this question too, we talked a little bit about before we came on the air, is there pressure to move people? Because if you don't move anyone, like let's say you put it out 2 weeks ago, and now you're going to put out an updated version 2 weeks after the original came out, is there pressure to move these guys strictly for the sake of talking points?
Yeah.
Strictly for the sake of sending out a tweet and saying, oh, listen, Dante Sheffy falls 9 spots, or Tyler Merrill up to number, whatever, 6 spots to number 28.
Yeah.
Is there sort of pressure to do that? Because if you don't move anybody, then, I just don't know how, we both seen Kevin Brown in the past month and a half. We haven't seen anything that would cause him to fall 6 spots in something like this. So what is it? Is it maybe the 5 guys behind them just picked up an offer from Oregon and USC or something like that? Does that cause the movement, or is it a strictly because even guys at rivals who bust their tail, and do these things, and a lot of people who love this part of football should really applaud what these guys do.
Yeah.
I mean, because they work their tails off. So I'm not diminishing the work at all. But I'm saying
it's about the task, right? It's like an
Right.
impossible task. It's
exactly. It is an impossible task. You rank in the top 250. Yes, it's an impossible task.
like
And,
people
you
getting
know,
mad at the Apple 100 top albums list. It's like you're
Well,
ranking
that was what I always said too. Like when we, when I made the decision years ago to basically scale down the All State because it had become previously a first team, a second team, a third team. It became so we scaled down to one team with 35 to 40 players in each classification and made it harder to become an all-state football player. I mean, it is hard to make that team. So, but it was interesting. You would always have people griping about, well, he should have been in the top 40, or he should at least been 38th. Like if you're running 1 through 40, So you never knew where it was going to come from, or you don't know. But these guys who make these lists, I just wonder if if the part of the process is to move guys up and down depending on sources that maybe the public doesn't get, or maybe the people who ingest this information don't fully understand.
Yeah, I think also some of the things that kind of go into it that people don't think about, especially when we're PA people, we're watching the PA kids, we're seeing Kevin Brown, we're like, he's done nothing to. I mean, no one could really move their stock that much, but then you look at the rankings and then you kind of look a little closer at these things, and then you see someone like a kid from Fort Worth, Texas, named John Turntine III, an offensive tackle. He picked up, he had, decent offers from Missouri and UTST and Cal and Oregon in February. March, he picks up an offer from Penn State. March, he picks up an offer from Tennessee. April, he picks up an offer from Ohio State. May, he picks up an offer from Alabama and Florida. All of a sudden, he goes from not ranked in the Rivals 250 to the number 23rd ranked player in the class of 2026, jumping over Kevin Brown. That's one spot Kevin Brown falls down. That has nothing to do with him. It has to do with a hidden gem, so to speak, that a bunch of college programs found. And it kind of goes to your point that, these offer sheets are a big part of how these guys are ranked too, right?
Yeah.
I think when you get closer to that senior year, it becomes a little less about that offer sheet and more about performance and film and what you see on the tape. But I think at this point, there's still it's hard to figure out who these guys are, and the teams, no matter how hard these rivals people work, these college programs are always going to find these kids before rivals finds them.
Yeah.
Like Alabama is going to offer a kid before rivals ranks a kid with no offers a 5-star, right? That's just how it works. Right. But once Alabama does that, they jump people like Kevin Brown, who also has an Alabama offer. But to me, the more interesting things are, when like Tyler Merrill jumps 29 spots. I think he has actually had a really good offseason. It sounds like from all the camps, the Under Armour camps and everything, they really liked his measurables. Like he measured bigger than they thought he would. He looked stronger than they thought he would. He goes up 29. I thought they had underranked him previously because he is still a little raw, and I get that. But he's 6'5", 305 as a high school sophomore. I think that's pretty darn good. Then there's also guys like Joey O'Brien from LaSalle, who we cover a lot of Pennsylvania football, and none of us are overly familiar with him beyond his offers he's had. Right. He went from not ranked to the 80th ranked player in the state. I think our overarching point here is these are fun. They're good for the kids who do get ranked because they can put it as a feather in their cap. I know for a fact Kevin Brown and Tyler Merrill are the type of kids that do not really care about this at all. I would be shocked if you asked Tyler Merrill, what are you ranked in the Rivals 250? If he didn't remember it, he'd probably rather probably remembers his time he's about to go fishing or whatever more than. And Kevin Brown would just say it doesn't matter at all. I just want to knock some people's heads off.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
I really think that that's what I think is so exciting about this group. Messiah Mickens, Sheffy, Elias Koch, Barnes. They are all about ball. They don't really care. I mean, I think they would love if you gave Elias Koch the option to be ranked or not ranked, he would want to be ranked. But I mean, Elias Koch's already going out. He's going out to California. I think I know he's playing on NFL Network in some 7-on-7 with Messiah and Deontay Sheffy this week. They're just all about football all the time. And I think that's just my overarching point is that these are just sort of guidelines. They're just sort of fun. Like you said, they're fun discussion points. But we know how college football teams recruit, and they might extend offers to 4 or 5 stars to bump their ratings to sell to fans. Hey, we're ranked 15th or whatever in the rivals recruiting rankings. But if you gave coaches truth serums, they'd say, I guarantee you a bunch of them say, we like some of these 3 stars more than some of these 4 stars. We like some of these unranked kids more than some of these 2 or 3 stars. The thing that's always going to matter most is that film, that huddle film. And but like we said, this is no slight to rivals because we see them out everywhere. They're driving long hours, and it's a really good resource too for us to before we cover.
Absolutely, we use it all the time, and we use these rankings all the time. And obviously, we have our own rankings at PennLive, for the state guys.
Yeah.
But these 4-star here, 3-star there. What's the difference? Why is it different? Yeah, we use these guys all the time, and they're a great reference for us, a great resource.
But I think even like the fact that we're quibbling about 3 versus 5 top 250 players in a one recruiting class,
right,
is pretty special for not even a state, for one specific region that I think for a while I wouldn't say it gets overlooked, but I do think that people kind of tend to when they talk about Pennsylvania football, they talk about the Whippeal, and then you talk about the Philly area, right? And I think Central PA is really kind of it. We'll see. I think that it's gonna be kind of a cycle. I don't think it's gonna end anytime soon, but we'll see if this is just a particularly special group that has us talking like this, because there are no mid-pen guys in the 2025. I forget if Stone Saunders ever ranked it, but he's not ranked in it.
I don't think he was ever ranked in that list, but obviously he's a big, that's our big guy, really.
Yeah, that's the big 2025. Yeah. So, but yeah, so these rankings, it's fun to talk about, and congrats again to. I still believe Kevin Brown is the number 1 ranked player in the state of Pennsylvania, which is a pretty big deal. You do not always get that in District 3 to have the top recruit in high school football. I'm sure. Trying to think if
he's won on rivals for the state.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think. I guess probably Nolan Rucci probably was back from Warwick, and then Micah Parsons. I imagine were probably like the last 2 that from District 3 were the top.
Yeah, probably from the mid-pen. I mean,
I guess Nick Singleton too. So I guess it happens more than we think. Yeah. So, but,
well, we were talking mid-pen, so
yeah. So if we're talking mid-pen, it's probably Micah Parsons, right?
You know what? Dan, I'll be honest with you. I don't even know if Micah was the number 1 guy.
Yeah.
In PA. Yeah. I'm not sure. I know he was very close. If he wasn't 1, he was 2. You know what I mean? But the last guy I remember just being, well, he was the number 1 recruit in the country was Noah Spence.
Oh yeah.
Back in
Parsons was number 1. He was ahead of Phil Jerkovic, and then right behind him was Zach Kuntz. So pretty fun class in 2018.
Pretty cool class. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, also Christian Barmore and Jahan Dotson. That's quite
Barmore, that's right. I remember Barmore.
Yeah, so that's quite a recruiting class. But yeah, I think the overarching point beyond complaining and quibbling here and there is it's an exciting time to be a PA high school football fan because there's a lot of talent in the area. We didn't even talk about some of the Western PA guys like Kaishan Robinson listed, David Davis, another guy. Some guys. Yeah, some real good.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun 2-year stretch. It is. Well, it always is, and Central PA football, but now exclusively with these guys running around, and it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
There's even a PIA guy in Cam Brickle from Malvern Prep.
Malvern, yeah.
And then and Matt Sig, of course, Matt Sig's also in the 250. He fell a decent amount too. So a lot of
yeah.
It honestly seems like almost every PA person fell except Tyler Merrill. So could just be they haven't got a chance to get out to some games recently. So we'll see what I imagine all those kids will battle their way back up the rankings a little bit. So
I'd imagine even if they're 30th or 31st and not, they should be 29th, according to opinion, I'd imagine they'll all be okay anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. All right, Dan, before we get going here, we want to give a quick shout out to one of the area sports heroes who obviously has been doing this for a long time. She's dominating the pro game, continues to dominate the pro game. Dan, go ahead. Give the shout out.
Yeah, I mean, we're a football podcast, but I've said it a bunch. Of like just going out talking to people. I feel like the area doesn't make a big enough deal for what they have as a area alumni in Alyssa Thomas, the Connecticut Sun superstar. She just won WNBA Player of the Month. Let's face it, the WNBA has never had a bigger light on it than it's had now. Like because of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and all that stuff. We don't have to delve into that stuff. But all Alyssa Thomas is doing is nearly averaging a triple-double at age 32. For I believe the Sun are still undefeated. She's just, if you turn on the game, she just plays the game at such a high level. I remember asking you a couple weeks ago, because I didn't cover Alyssa in high school. You did. I asked, was she this good in high school? Because obviously she had to be to go to Maryland at that point in time.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, she was incredible to watch. She was even better to watch in Maryland. And I mean, she's going to have a case when it's all said and done, I think, for an argument for being one of like the 5 best athletes from the Mid-Penn ever. She's going to be, I don't know, is she going to be she's going to be a basketball Hall of Famer. She's not playing on the Olympic team, which feels like a personal decision at this point.
Yes.
And she had that. And also, I think the other thing that was fun was when she got ejected for shoving Angel Reese to the green. Yeah. You said you are not surprised at all because that's the type of player Alyssa has always been. So,
but Alyssa she just embodies the game. Like she she's so fluid too. Like when you watch her, because obviously she's left-handed.
Yeah,
so she's so fluid with the ball, and it's like in perpetual motion. But then if you want to test her and you want to try to like D her up, she'll go through you too.
Yeah.
Like she's tough as nails, and she's so much fun to watch. But dude, at Maryland, it was ridiculous.
Yeah,
she was ridiculous at Maryland.
Yeah,
and everybody talked about her, and as well they should have, because she was ACC Player of the Year, I think 3 times.
Yeah,
which that doesn't happen.
No,
that just doesn't happen
unless you're like one of these unless you're like a Caitlin Clark level.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly right.
I mean, she's on pace to win the MVP. That it's a lot of basketball left, but averaging 9 points and 9 rebounds and 9 assists a game as a forward that's like Larry Bird stuff. So I mean, so just figured,
and she's so great to talk to. I've had a chance to do a few stories on her, obviously, through the years, and she's great to deal with. And she, every time she goes back to the area, her mom, of course, is the head coach of Milton Hershey now. Mm-hmm. She's back at school. She's watching games. She's helping the kids. Everybody loves her. I mean, she's just salt of the earth, unbelievable basketball player. But I would not want to tick her off on the court.
No, we've seen that. We've seen that a couple times already. So figured with all the success she's been having and the amount of WNBA talk going on podcasts across the country, we should get in on it and give it a little local flair. So maybe I think the Sun, it looks like their next game's June 8th on ABC. If you got some free time, maybe watch it, because it's Alyssa Thomas versus Breanna Stewart. That'll be a good game. So.
Yeah, check her out for sure. Yeah. All right, Dan, that'll do it for this edition of PA High School Football Report. We appreciate everybody joining along as always. And of course, come on back next week. We'll have more football talk, and it's all we're already in June, folks, so it's all going to ramp up here very, very shortly. So
it's time to learn the new divisions, right? We got to start getting the flashcards.
Maybe we'll pull that out next week. I'll pull out the stuff.
Oh, that'll be a fun episode. A
10-team divisions, and we'll talk about travel and maybe the best diners in between towns or villages. Maybe we'll do that next week or the week after. But there's going to be some interesting travel packages for the new Mid-Penn Conference, the new look NPC.
Yeah, we're going to have to do like a trivia game or something to see how many of them we can get right.
Where's James Buchanan's birthplace? Where's it? All right. Yeah, all right. We'll get in all that next week. So, Dan, appreciate your time, buddy. We'll talk next week.
See ya.
The UPMC sports medicine experts in Central PA are here to help keep you in the game and improve your quality of life, no matter your age or activity level. Visit upmc.com/Central PA SportsMed to learn more.